What up, it's Chris from Laser Lemming and UpandLoaded.com. Hello. Doing a post E3 press conference show and also a post ranting about YouTube show. So, if you were a part of this E3 experience with me, I know E3 is still going on this week. It's a full week-long event. Most of E3 shoots its load right at the beginning of the week. Traditionally speaking, that's probably no different this year, but if you've been following along with this channel in E3, you know we've been live streaming the shows. We did Microsoft, Ubisoft, Bethesda, Sony, Nintendo, and I don't know if we did another one, but yeah, those are the main ones we covered. We also talked a little bit about EA and Square-Enix, but if you've been following, you know it's been quite the journey. I spent several hours preparing for E3 this year. Put together a lot of thumbnails and just got everything ready. Just try to be really prepared and really have this ish together. But if you've been following this adventure, you know that after I had completed the third stream, which was Ubisoft, YouTube blocked the video, and at the same time, without informing me, also blocked my channel from being able to stream live for 90 days. And, of course, the Ubisoft video is gone now. I deleted it, didn't matter anymore. And, can't stream. So, what happened was, still streamed Sony and Nintendo, but I did it through the Facebook page, which is a good time to remind you to like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter. This is how you know when things are happening. Now, as you can see, I'm doing a pre-recorded video, which I do like doing quite a bit. It just takes a different kind of work. See, when I do a pre-recorded video, most of the work on my end takes place after the video is made. So I'm doing the thumbnail and the editing and the tags and all that. When I live stream, most of the work is done before the video is made. Now, granted, I'm still live streaming, and that takes hours to do sometimes. You know, sometimes we'll go for an hour, sometimes it's 2 hours, sometimes something in between. But most of the work is done beforehand. Normally I'm doing the thumbnail before I make the video. And this might not be something you really care about. You're thinking, the thumbnail? What are you talking about? This is just the kind of thing that YouTubers have to deal with. This is the kind of thing we do. I actually like making thumbnails a lot of the time. But I'm just telling you, I'm just ranting, just kind of raving. 2 minutes, 40 seconds in, so might as well get to the point. Anyway, YouTube blocked me for 90 days. We're at now day 89. So we got 89 more days before we can stream on YouTube. So in the meantime, you know, we streamed on Facebook for Sony and Nintendo. It was fine, but the thing about Facebook streaming is it sucks. The quality sucks. The good thing about it is that people that don't normally check out your live streams on YouTube are more likely to check it out on Facebook, if only briefly. So there was that positive aspect to it. However, the quality on Facebook sucks. It's garbage. It's just blurry nonsense. Unless you're watching it maybe on like a small phone or maybe tablet. When it's smaller, it's better. Anyway, next plan here, since we have 89 days and I'm not going to just drop streaming for 3 months, but I'm still going to do pre-recorded videos like this, probably talking more about video games, and we'll get to that, by the way. If you want to hear me talk about E3 some more, skip to this part in the video. Hopefully I remember to put up a timestamp there. Anyway, so what we're going to do is, at least in these 3 months, and maybe beyond if it works out, we're gonna really move on over to Twitch for a while. And YouTube link is going to be in, or the Twitch link is going to be in the YouTube description box below. And that might just bury me in YouTube's analytics, or their algorithm might say, hey, oh, you got a Twitch link in there, we are not going to promote this video. Who knows? I'm being very anti-YouTube today and yesterday. Believe me, when I was all ready for Sony's press conference last night. I said, guys, after the Ubisoft conference was over, I said, okay, meet me back here in about 2.5, 3 hours, and we'll get this Sony conference popping. I was ready ahead of time, and it took me about 10 or 15 minutes to realize what was going on. I was just wondering why it wasn't working. YouTube didn't say, oh, you've been blocked. I had to go into the channel preferences and settings to see, oh yeah, you've been blocked for 90 days. And it's not clear. It's very unfriendly. And the thing that pissed me off the most about it is that this channel is not tiny. You know, there's over 2,000 subscribers, but it's not huge either. And there are channels that are much bigger than mine that streamed more conferences than I did, because I have a day job still. So I can't do every single conference, but I still streamed quite a bit. And the channels that are bigger than me that were able to stream everything, they're fine. You know, they were streaming Sony, even though they had streamed Ubisoft and EA and Bethesda and Microsoft beforehand. So they were fine. But my channel, not so fine. So I don't like the hierarchy that goes on with this internet thing. It's not. I'm sure it's not limited to YouTube, but obviously I'm not YouTube's biggest fan right now. So I'm still gonna do the pre-recorded videos on YouTube, quite like this, except more game-related focus. But in the meantime, streams, we're gonna move over to Twitch. So check out the link in the description box below. Also, I'm gonna try to link these through upandloaded.com, which you should go to, by the way. Go to upandloaded.com if you want to just get a collection of these videos. Makes it easy to follow. But in the meantime, let's talk E3. We're 6 minutes in. Might as well talk a little bit about video games. So at the end of my Nintendo stream this morning, I talked about just kind of quick comparison of who I thought did best. I did not think EA did the best against anybody. Maybe they did better. I think they did better than Square-Enix, I suppose. Square-Enix showed fine content, but it was mostly trailers that we had already seen before. They did have a couple of exclusive reveals, but for the most part, it was just, hey, remember this trailer we showed at this other conference and this trailer we showed at that conference? Here it is again. Same exact trailer. So, it's just whatever. EA showed some new content. They had goodish news about Battlefront 5. They'd already really spoken about this. They reinforced the idea that there's no premium pass, no loot boxes, which I think is good. A lot of people are not happy about that game because of, either there's the fact that there's female soldiers, or that it just gets so off the rails when it comes to historical accuracy. I don't know. Not to say that was limited to the female soldiers, just in general, hook hands, whatever. Anyway, EA didn't win. I don't think EA won for anybody. I thought Bethesda, out of all the third parties, did a pretty good job because they focused on the games and they didn't take themselves too seriously. EA takes themselves way too seriously every single year, and they shouldn't be praised for that. Ubisoft was a little bit more lighthearted, but they also ended up being the straw that broke the camel's back and got this channel blocked for 3 months in this $6,000 suit. So I wasn't too happy about Ubisoft getting me flagged like a million times over. But the show itself was fine. They opened with Just Dance, and that was weird with the dancing furry panda. And they showed off a few games. Not too many Switch games. They showed, however, they did show Starlink, which had a exclusive set of Star Fox missions. You could play as Star Fox in Starlink, which was pretty cool, I thought. I think the Switch version is going to sell best because of that. And, they showed The Division 2, which is going to sell fine, I'm sure, and Beyond Good and Evil 2, which seems to no longer be a prequel because Jade is in it. And anyway, they did fine. Now, this is what you really care about, the meat and potatoes. This is where your priorities really lie, I'm sure. Microsoft, Sony, Nintendo, who did the best? I don't think it was Sony, and I don't think it was Nintendo. And this is coming from somebody who is not historically much of an Xbox fan at all, but Microsoft, who probably had the most pressure on them to deliver, because, let's face it, the Xbox One is clearly not the winner of this generation. They're not winning in sales, and they're not winning in mind share. So they've been trying, right? Microsoft came into this generation hot and cocky as hell. That's why the Xbox One was going to be this DRM machine. It didn't allow you to use games. You had to always be online. And, of course, they thought Sony was going to do the same thing, but Sony chickened out at the last second and reaped the rewards for it, right? The PS4 was huge. The Xbox One, not so much. There are still people out there that think the Xbox One does not play used games, and that's Microsoft's fault. Your first impression is important. Nintendo had a very good first impression with the Switch, and the Switch has been doing well. In fact, it sounds like the Switch is overtaking the Xbox One in the UK, if I am misreading that correctly. So we'll see. Anyway, Microsoft had the most pressure on them, right? Because the biggest criticism they have this generation right now, outside of those things that are no longer true regarding used games and always needing to be online, is the fact that they don't have exclusives. They have jack shit for exclusives, right? They have their typical games that they pump out. There's a new Forza every single year, either a mainline Forza sim game or a Forza Horizon game. Every other year they trade off, right? And then you have Gears of War. There's 3 Gears of War games. 3 Gears of War games coming out this year and next, it sounds like. And Halo. Halo Infinite. We don't know if that's Halo 6. We don't know if it's some kind of spin-off, or maybe they've already officially revealed that kind of detail. But Halo. And, they show those games. They did show them. But they showed so much more. This is where Sony really dropped the ball. But they showed so much more. They showed indie games. Sony did not show any indie games that I could really remember, at least at their press conference, which was a weird setup, by the way, and we'll get to that. But they showed indie games. They showed big AAA games. They showed the exclusives that they had. Granted, they don't have the big catalog of exclusives that Sony or Nintendo has, but they did show exclusives and a bunch of other games. So they get credit for that. Sony went the other direction. Sony had everything. They had everything to gain, and they chose to do nothing with it. Just walked out with their junk in their hands and said, hey, here's some exclusives. Bye. And that was it. It was it. It was weird because the Sony conference, which in the past has been historically too long. I remember them going about 3 hours some years, which was crazy. This year, it was about as long as Nintendo's, maybe a little bit shorter than Nintendo's, which was a huge surprise for me. I looked at it, I was like, that's it. And that was it, They showed The Last of Us Part 2, which looked great. They showed Ghost of Tsushima, which looked great. They showed a game from Remedy, which is a multi-platform, not an exclusive. Looked pretty cool. And a few other games, Resident Evil 2 Remake, bits and pieces of Dreams without actually talking about the game, Dreams, and a little bit here and there. But they didn't show anything for indies. I think they showed one game that was VR compatible. They had this PSVR, the PlayStation VR, and they didn't talk about it at all. Just like with the Vita, except they gave the VR, honestly, I'll say they've given the PSVR more push than they ever gave the Vita. But when the Vita came out, a year later, the second E3, they gave the Vita very little time at their press conference. Instead, they were all about 3D TV. Sony just moves on from one trend to the other. And seems like they're not sure where they want to go with VR. It hasn't set the world on fire like they wanted it to, so they're just not giving it that push. Even though there are still people dedicated to it at Sony. So it's when you have these huge companies, they're battling for time and mind share within themselves. People within Sony are fighting each other for this kind of time on stage. So Sony did not win. Sony did not win if you want to make it a competition, which clearly I do, right? But they showed some great games. They just didn't show enough. When you have the world at your hands, they can show anything. They have the exclusives, they have the third-party games, they have the indies, they have the VR games, and when you don't want to show anything except a few exclusives and a couple multi-platform games, what's your problem? What's your problem? I think, honestly, they're trying to make E3 less important, because right now Sony is top dog, and they want people to focus on their own show, which is PSX, the PlayStation Experience, which happens later in the year. So I think that's probably why they didn't give E3 much love this year. And Nintendo, I thought Nintendo did decent. I think that they could have showed more, especially since Nintendo has a plethora of indie games, and I know that there's a lot coming to the system. And to their credit, they did show indie games. They showed a lot more indie games than Sony did, which was 0 as far as I remember. They showed some third-party games. They confirmed pretty much every rumor was true. Dragon Ball FighterZ, or Fighters, is coming. And Fortnite arrived day and date, just as promised. The leaks promised it would be out, and it did. Paladins was coming out. Killer Queen Black coming out. But Fortnite's out. People are playing it on Switch now. which, by the way, they are playing it on Switch against people on the Xbox One, on the PC, and mobile, and none of those people are playing against the PS4. I think PC people could play against the PS4 players, but that's it. And this is a big controversy because if you've ever played Fortnite on your PS4, you cannot use that account on your Switch or your Xbox One, and that's it. Or mobile, I think. You just can't, or maybe you can't use mobile. I don't know. I'm rambling, but I'm saying you just can't fight against the other consoles, and that's Sony's doing. Sony is getting raked over the coals for this, rightfully so. They have no intention of changing that because the strategy works. If you're able to play Fortnite on your PS4 against people on an Xbox One or people on a Switch, those people on the other consoles don't really have a reason, at least regarding Fortnite, to buy a PS4, right? I know a coworker that is considering buying a PS4 because nobody else has an Xbox One at work. That's exactly what Sony would want him to do. They would want him to get a PS4. So, it's not for the players, as Sony would say, but it is what it is. So, now, Sony didn't win for me. I thought, honestly, it was theirs to take. I thought this was their year to take it. And really, last year probably was too. Next year probably would be as well. But if this is how they're going to act, if this is how they're going to treat E3, which is like a lesser experience, I think, then no, they're not going to win. They're not going to win the hype, which is E3. E3 is hype. It's attention. It's bravado. Just threw that last one in there. I don't know. Yeah, it is what it is. I'm rambling. This is going on too long. It's starting to look a lot like a stream in length. So that's it. I thought Nintendo and Sony kind of jousted for it, but Nintendo showed off Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, which had every character in the series from N64 and onward, every single one. Tons of skins, tons of clones, or as they call them, echo characters, new Final Smashes, which are quicker, more to the point. Looked awesome. GameCube controller support, awesome. I'm excited for it. Definitely excited for Smash Brothers, of course. But they spent 25 minutes talking about it. I think that was longer than half of the show. So they could have shown more. They just decided to really go in-depth on Smash, which was fine for me because I love Smash Brothers. But if Smash Brothers is just okay to you, or it's not your cup of tea at all, you probably got bored real quick. So, yeah, they showed the other games. They had this cool mech game called Damon Times or Cross Machina. It was like a mech game. Looked pretty cool. Who knows how good it is, but it looked cool. Visually, it looked cool. And like I said, they had those other third parties and indie games that are out now or coming soon. So they showed a decent amount, but I felt like they could have shown more. So Sony and Nintendo kind of tied. My personal bias leans me towards Nintendo because I love Smash Brothers, and they actually showed a variety of games from a variety of different tier developers, not just the big dogs, which is all Sony cared about this year. And most of those big dogs were themselves, and that's fine, but half the games they showed they had already shown before, maybe 1 year before or 2 years before, and half of those games aren't even coming out till next year anyway. So Sony didn't win. You know what? I just declared it. It's going Microsoft, Nintendo, Sony in this round. So let me know your thoughts, comment section below. Do you agree with me? How much do you agree with me? Why do you agree with me so much? Subscribe for more if you haven't already. Again, follow us on Twitch. It's twitch.tv/upandloaded. Again, I'll put the description or the link in the description below. And it'll be fun. It'll be good times. And yeah. So let me know. Also follow us on Twitter and Facebook and blah, 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 blah. Thanks again for watching. I love you very much. Oh my gosh, I just love your presence. Yeah, I'll see you soon.